has retained most of the Government of National Unity's national executive, and this after President Cyril Ramaphosa announced these cabinet appointments last night at the Union buildings. The new cabinet comprises a diversity of political parties that are now part of the Government of National Unity, including the Democratic Alliance, Inkatha Freedom Party and the Good Party. So to talk to us more about business community sentiments of the new cabinet, we joined virtually by Khulekani Mathe, who's the Chief Executive Officer Designate at Business Unity South Africa. Mr. Mathe, thanks for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
Sakina, and to the viewers of SABC Morning Live.
So I guess you've had a few hours to digest what was announced last night. And as Business Unity South Africa, you've said that you're eager to collaborate with President Ramaphosa and his new government. So what are your sentiments about the cabinet appointments?
Well, as business, we welcome the cabinet that was announced by President Ramaphosa last night. We, of course, recognize the fact that he had to choose between a very sort of limited, there was very limited room for him, given that he had to negotiate with a range of parties. So we accept that this is a cabinet that he did not have a free hand in choosing. We have this cabinet now, and we are more than happy to work with this cabinet in driving the growth agenda for South Africa.
Mr. Mathe, as Business Unity South Africa, what exactly is it about these appointments that you are encouraged about?
Well, in the first instance, that we now have a government in place and that everything from the elections to the point where we're at, everything has been very smooth, everything has been very peaceful, which demonstrates the maturing of our democracy. We now have a cabinet drawn from different political parties, and that again tells us that we have entered a new era in South Africa of being open to and willing to work together across the diversity. And so that is encouraging because we are a diverse country, and the more we work together, the more we can achieve than if we try to do things alone.
Are there any concerns that stand out for you at this point?
Well, I mean, you will know that the president had in the past promised to trim down the size of the cabinet. And the fact that we have a large cabinet is of concern. We accept that there was a need to accommodate perhaps many people, but we do need to, as a country, get to a point where we have a cabinet that is small, that can work, because on the one hand, that really just reduces the amount of tackling and differences that you have. So the fact that we have a large cabinet is still a bit of a concern, but we accept the president's explanation that, look, this was done to try and accommodate the diversity of parties in the GNU.
But do you really buy into that, Mr. Mathe? Because some of the parties who have now entered into this Government of National Unity have been scathing of a bloated cabinet in this country for the longest time. So one would imagine that they would know that it is in everybody's best interest to trim that cabinet, and one would have liked to see that sort of approach from them. So do you actually really buy into that explanation?
What we buy into is the fact that the outcome that we have today was not expected by anybody. I mean, leading up to the elections, there were sort of projections that the ANC would come below 50%, and thus requiring a collaboration with other parties. But I don't think anybody expected to be what we have today. And of course, given that we accept that, the president needed to then be true to the spirit of being inclusive as a government of national unity. But of course, we would like to see going forward as things stabilize, really trimming the cabinet to one that can really be very agile and be able to move the country forward.
And just very briefly, your reaction to the Ministries of Finance and Small Business Development, continuity in that sense, your reaction to that?
As we have said in our statement, we welcome the fact that Minister Kotongwane has been reappointed in the finance portfolio, because that signals continuity, especially because he had outlined in the budget 2023 a set of measures that are necessary to bring our public finances under control. I think to then interrupt that program would have been, I think, a concern. And certainly the markets would have reacted negatively to that. And so that reappointment is important, and we welcome that, because it confirms that there is still commitment to that path of reining in our public expenditure. Of course, there are many other portfolios where ministers have been returned. And so, again, that is important for continuity. But more than that, what really matters is how all of these cabinet ministers are going to work together as a collective and put the country first, drive an agenda that is inclusive, drive an agenda of growth so that we can create jobs in this economy.
And just finally, Mr. Mathe, do you have confidence that this government of national unity and the executive that's been announced will be able to work together for the foreseeable future?
We have called on all to support this cabinet, and so we would be the first ones to say we support this cabinet, and it will only succeed if it has our support. And therefore, as South Africans, we must support this cabinet and give it a chance to really do the work that is necessary to take this country forward. It doesn't help at this point to throw stones and question this or that appointment. I know that if any of us were given a clean slate to choose our cabinet, it would look different. We now have a cabinet in place chosen by the president in performing his task as outlined in the Constitution. We must fall behind this cabinet, support it to deliver.
Mr. Khulekani Mathe, thanks so much for your time. The CEO Designate of Business Unity South Africa, talking to us about the new cabinet appointed by President Ramaphosa last night and the business community's expectations as well as their sentiments at this point. With that, it's time for headlines. Here's Leanne.